Anand Giridharadas had a very, very great interpretation of what Donald Trump really is. Let's listen to that and then take it on the other side.
When shocking events just keep coming one on top of the other and breaking news feels like history unfolding at high speed, it is very, very difficult to try to find the perspective that allows you to take it all in. Most of us simply cannot do it. My next guest can. He summed up the last 10 days this way. He hosted a super spreader event to honor a justice who would have the government control your body but refuse the duty to care for it. And when the virus he helped go around came around, he availed of the health care he would deny others, financed by the taxes he refuses to pay. Joining us now, Anand Giridharadas, MSNBC political analyst and publisher of the Inc. newsletter. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for explaining it all to me so clearly and in such an economically written piece.
I think what's so interesting in the way you set it up is that part of why this is happening, part of why we're having, these half comic, half absolutely terrifying Mussolini-esque scenes on the balcony of the White House is it benefits Donald Trump for us to be living in this eternal present every day. And so I was just reflecting, trying to make sense of it myself. And just over the last week to 10 days, as you sort of referenced, if you just look through what we have lived through in those 10 days, it started with the peaceful transfer of power stuff. Remember that, right? Like, we might not have a free and fair election, alarm bell, alarm bell. And then quickly it was the tax story. And then quickly it was the debate story and the bullying. We forgot about the prior two things. And then the president got COVID. And so I started thinking about these kind of four events, peaceful transfer of power, the taxes, the debate, the COVID. And it suddenly just had this epiphany of like, this is all the same story. This is all the same story of a masquerade of strength. This is the story of a president who knows he's losing in terms of the election and is therefore not trying to become a strong man because he is a strong man, but trying to become a strong man because he knows he's on the way out and needs to cling unlawfully. On the taxes, the New York Times reporting, I was wrong in my initial reaction to that story. I felt it was about, rigging the system, and sure it is, about plutocratic, maneuvering. But the New York Times people who broke that story went on the Daily podcast and were like, this is actually not quite about that. This is about the fact that the guy makes no money. He's not paying taxes because he's a brilliant con artist. He does a little bit of that, but he actually doesn't make profit. Like he's not a businessman. So weakness inverted into this masquerade of strength as a businessman. The debate, anybody who's ever been bullied, and I count myself among those millions of Americans, knows that the strength you experience when you're being thrown into the locker or being talked over in the meeting or being roughed up by the police is actually someone's terror of weakness, inverted again, performed as strength. And finally, with the president getting this disease, he has this disease because he is more afraid, Lawrence, of not being seen as a man than dying. He's certainly not afraid of killing you and me and 210,000 other Americans through neglect and manslaughter via policy. But I don't think he's afraid of killing himself if the price would be to avoid what he feels is the humiliation of wearing a mask and submitting to common sense and care for others. And it just became for me this moment of thinking about America's cultural crisis, of kind of weakness masquerading as strength.
You write that it seems clear that his illness represented the death of a certain widespread and catastrophic kind of masculinity.
There was this moment, I don't know if you remember this one or were lucky enough to be passed by it. Robert O'Neill, the former Navy SEAL who claims to have shot the bullet that killed Osama bin Laden in 2011, not long ago tweeted a photo of himself in an airplane, not wearing a mask, with in the background an older guy, perhaps a veteran with a U.S. Marine Corps hat, who was properly wearing a mask on this Delta flight. And Robert O'Neill, using a vulgarity, essentially says, I'm not a wuss. That's not the actual word, but let's say that's what he was going for. And again, I just had this moment of thinking, as a man, wow, what is wrong with our culture of masculinity in this country, where even Robert O'Neill, after shooting and killing Osama bin Laden, the most wanted terrorist alive, does not feel enough of a man to not take that photo and brag about risking everybody's life around him. Donald Trump is the head of a snake, but our whole system, our whole culture needs a reckoning.
That is so important what Anand Giridharadas had to say there, because again, you would think the masculinity culture, and you have to, and it's a culture, it's not a being, it's a culture. And it's a dangerous culture. And so a lot of times that's why I said, we need to have, you take a look at who handled the coronavirus better throughout the world. The women handled it better. Ask yourself why. And we have the macho men that did the screwiest job of it. Donald Trump, Putin, Bolsonaro, and ¿cómo se llama that guy in England? Johnson in England. So, you take a look at the people that did the worst with this thing, and it's the macho men that did worse. And Donald Trump, again, he's them all. Ask yourself another question. Donald Trump, he uses his macho because he's a businessman, etc. Ask yourself a question. You can actually see what Exxon produces, what Shell produces, so forth. What the hell does the Trump enterprise produce of value to the average American? Absolutely nothing of value. And he got it perfect, and Anand got it right. He doesn't make any profit because he doesn't make anything. It's a facade. It's a facade. A facade cannot run a successful country, and that is where we're at today. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.